inventor of snowboard mountaineering, first to ride all 7 summits, and the mind behind bold first ascents from the Tetons to Antarctica.
I just love the fact that right from a very, very early age, where society, matrix, whatever is around us, kind of conditions us that we don't have the answers, that it is outside of us.
It's interesting with snowboarding and mountaineering because you spend so much time climbing up something and you get to think about it. And ideally, when you're climbing up, you're experiencing the conditions. So you're gaining knowledge and ascertain what conditions are with that distance versus the intimate knowledge and experience of climbing up.
Resilience in leading when the cost of a bad decision is everything. Can you take us to a moment when you were committed to a no-fall line, something where everything was on the line for you?
That's what drew me to...
Are you looking for actionable insights from the world's most inspiring individuals? The Built by Love podcast is on a mission to transform your life, your business, and your health. Tune in for impactful conversations with people who do business differently. Avoid burnout, acquire freedom, and live life fully on your own terms. With me, Pete Daly-Dixon, alongside Daniel Bussius. We're pressing record like as soon as the three of us are in the room together, because you just never know what's going to come up.
Yeah. So, honest confession here, I was an aspiring mountaineer. And so I started buying all the gear. That I got into rock climbing because I wanted to climb mountains. So I knew I was going to have a foundational base to that. Fell in love with rock climbing and then started buying the serious mountaineering gear like La Sportiva, Olympus Mons boots. Like I was going all in that direction, right? And so then I started looking into expeditions for Everest. I'm going to age myself. This had to be about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. And this was before, Everest has always been crowded, but this was before it was like really, really like just a standing line. And I came across Dan Mazur. And I really liked his team's approach. I really liked that it wasn't over commercialized. I just liked the entire approach, and I had chatted with him. And then I said, all right, I'm going to do this. But before I do this, I'm going to go over and I'm going to test my merits on Denali. So then if I can handle the winds and I can handle the cold at Denali, then I should be in a fairly good situation to step onto Everest without, cheating my way up with Sherpas climbing for me on my behalf and roping me in, doing all the things, all that stuff. So I never did that. I'm now married and have a kid, and my wife's like, absolutely not. Like, seriously, you're not allowed to do any of those things. I don't even want you rock climbing. That's not going to happen. So as we're wrapping up the season, I wanted to have someone else on there. So I started looking through, and I noticed you and I were connected on LinkedIn. And I don't remember how we were connected, but I said, this is perfect. Our podcast is about helping entrepreneurs thrive in their key pillars of their life. And you are a business coach. You do that. You have lived that. You have summited mountains. You have literally gone to the extremes and come back. And I just figured it was a perfect guest. So that's I'm really excited to have you on today.
So did you eBay those Olympus Mons and as new, or were they slightly used? That's the question.
Oh my gosh, how embarrassing! This is a couple years ago. I was like, these have not been on a legitimate mountain. So when I went to Mammoth to go snowboarding, I brought them so I could walk around just to say like, I've put these $1,000 boots on.
Right.
Yeah. They are sitting in with my snowboard gear right now. And I am just too stubborn to give them up because I'm like, you know what? I can go up to Oregon. I can go up to Washington. Like I can do like day alpineering. Even in Northern California, like Shasta, I can do an overnight. So I still have that
Hey,
idea, but
bring with you next summer. Stephen, Dan, and his wife and son are spending a couple of months in Italy this summer. Next summer, sorry. So you can climb in the Italian Alps. You can do that for sure. Bring them
yeah,
over.
well, yeah, but we'll be there in June. Do you
Huh?
I mean, like, I know that certain mountains still have snow, but is it going to be? I don't know.
Anyway.
I can't do that with my wife around. She'll kill me.
Well, here's some logic. Maybe if you wait long enough and your son gets into it, then you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've already got him. He's 6. He's turning 7 in January. I've already got him in the rock climbing gym. So he already loves rock climbing. And so I'm like, okay, I think at between like 9 and 10 years old, we can legit do like Snake Dike, Half Dome, right? The Snake Dike route, which is like an 8 in climbing. So as long as he can handle the hike, I was like, that would be a wonderful introduction. Not the first climb outdoors, but a wonderful introduction to climbing. Because if he gets into that, then I mean, there we go.
How old is he?
He's 6, turning 7 in January.
Nice.
So I
Nice.
don't know. Maybe I was thinking 9 or 10, but again, I don't know. So it's the mileage of the hike and the elevation. So maybe we should start with something like Eichhorn Pinnacle, which is Upper Tuolumne, by Cathedral Peak. Again, like I'm nerding out into it, but I want him to have an
Do you
epic
get
thing
out?
where he
You
can
get
see
out
that.
now and hike and do things close to home?
Yeah. So, and in San Diego, where I'm based, there's a crag, like a day crag. It's one pitch, and so that's like going to be a perfect place to get him started. It's half a mile from where you park your car to like the base, and nothing's crazy there. So eventually I'll get him up there, and we'll see. So he loves the gym. He loves the gym, climbing there. So yeah.
Where are you based, Stephen?
I'm in Durango, Colorado, but I'm actually originally from San Diego.
Okay.
I was born
Really?
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing it's the mountains that brought you out to Colorado, right?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted back in a mountain town, but
Absolutely.
wanted something more moderate than as far as temperature goes, than Jackson, where I spent 30 years.
Gotcha. Well, let's get started with the first question.
Can I just say I was one ahead of time? I have to go and collect my father-in-law at 10:30 your time, Daniel. So I do have a stop there. So we should be all right. We should be all right. But just
yeah, be mindful.
Yeah.
So I'm the one that runs my mouth the longest. So there you go. So
yeah, my job actually, Stephen, is just to get Daniel to shut up enough.
Keep him on track. Get him back to the questions.
Yeah. So I geek out and get like all into it. So cool. Well, let's go ahead. Let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the intro since we've already been chatting, and then let's start with the opener. So inventor of snowboard
you do
mountaineering.
Your thing, I'll play along.
Yeah. All right. Inventor of snowboard mountaineering, first to ride all 7 summits, and the mind behind bold first ascents from the Tetons to Antarctica, Stephen Koch joins us to decode. Stephen Koch joins us to decode calculated risk, resilience, and leading when the cost of a bad decision is everything. Welcome, Stephen. It's an honor to have you on Built by Love.
Welcome.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Appreciate being here. Peter, good to see you.
Yeah, we love to start with a dramatic opening, and so I think you probably have an arsenal full of them. Can you take us to a moment when you were committed to a no-fall line, something where everything was on the line for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what drew me to snowboarding in steep places initially, was that feeling of excitement that I got, that fear that I felt when I put myself in those, precarious situations. And I did that literally a week into my snowboarding. Um, I was snowboarding down extreme things that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was excited to be there and managed to get down them. But to really try and pinpoint something for you, dropping in, it's interesting with snowboarding and mountaineering, because you spend so much time climbing up something and you get to think about it. And ideally, when you're climbing up, you're experiencing the conditions. So you're gaining knowledge on the way up that you get to utilize for the descent, versus going up another route, an easier route per se, and then dropping in, quote, blind, or like in the case of helicopter skiing, where you don't know the conditions intimately. You get to sight them, you view them, maybe you can watch someone else descend and ascertain what conditions are, with that distance, versus the intimate knowledge and experience of climbing up. So, I mean, thinking back to some scary times, I was in Chamonix and dropping into, um, the Gervasudi Couloir on Mont Blanc du Tacoul. And I climbed up the easy ridge and then was dropping in the steep 3,000-foot couloir. And I didn't know the conditions, and it was super exciting, and I was doing fine, making turns. I worked through the fear and the unknowns. I said, I think conditions are good. I did some research. I talked to people about conditions over the last couple of weeks, and it seems like people have been making descents. So I think it's going to be good, and I'm going to go for it. And then I move through the fear and drop in, and then I'm turning and things are going well. And then about 3/4 of the way down the couloir, at its steepest section, about 55 degrees, I all of a sudden hit, in the shadow of a rock outcropping, I hit ice and I start sliding. But fortunately, I have my ice axe and I swing it and get it in, and literally am hanging from it. And, I don't have any edge anymore. I mean, it's pretty much glare ice with just a spattering of snow on it that I pushed away from the edge of my board. So I was able to, fortunately, I had an ice screw on my harness, and I put that ice screw in and clipped into my harness right as my hand slipped out of my leash on my ice axe. This is in 1990. And then I had to go through the whole thing of changeover. I'm like, okay, I'm secure at this point into the ice screw with my harness. I took my snowboard off. I put crampons on. I put my snowboard on my backpack. And then I, got my ice axes and down climbed until the snow got better. It went from ice to snow. And then I was able to reestablish myself on the snowboard again. And I continued snowboarding down, and I jumped the Bergschrund, which is where the glacier pulls away from the face. And upon landing, I blew out of my snowboard because my bindings were loose. And I hadn't realized that. I hadn't tightened them enough. And I was so fortunate that, I didn't blow out of these bindings on the whole descent, or even right off the top of the Aiguille de Midi. I was making turns on the north side of the ridge with, a 3,000 foot drop below. So very fortunate. And that's one of many times where I was very fortunate.
You didn't start your business to be a full-time marketer. You started it to take control of your future and live life on your own terms, to earn abundantly, and to make a positive impact in this world. But somewhere along the way, funnels, lead magnets, landing pages, and email sequences became your second job. At Built by Love Agency, we get it, and we've got you. We specialize in done-for-you marketing that speaks your brand, sells your services, and brings in your dream clients without you lifting a finger. Whether you're ready to scale or just tired of duct taping your marketing together, it's time to hand it over to the pros. We've been in business since 1998 and have worked with over 1,000 brands, ranging from Fortune 500 companies to small businesses with visions to change the world. Our experience in what we do runs deep, and our multiple awards, accolades, and decades of happy clients shows what we do for our clients works. Visit BuiltByLove.com today to schedule your discovery call so you can get back to doing the work you love. An agency you'll love, results you'll love even more. BuiltByLove.com.
How long had you been snowboarding and mountaineering at that point? How experienced were you, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. At that point, I snowboarded for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'd climb for 1.5 years.
So really
That's
fairly early doors in
go
terms
ahead.
of your career as a snowboard mountaineer. You didn't have much much experience to draw on other than sheer grit and determination, I suppose.
I mean, it wasn't a long time, but it was every day. I mean, when I started snowboarding, I snowboarded all day, every day,
right,
for 2 years. And I worked as little as possible just to support my snowboarding habit. And so, yeah, it wasn't a short, I mean, it was a short period of time, but it was packed during that time. So a lot of hours. But yeah, in the scheme of things, not that many. And I used that experience and got to learn and grow from that. I like to call when I have challenges or make mistakes like that, I call that the suck. And as long as you can survive the suck, there's usually gold in there. And so you mine the gold. And so the gold that I mined was, okay, be more thorough about my equipment. Go through before I'm going to do a descent. Make sure everything's working right. Every nut's tight. Every bolt's tightened. So that was an opportunity I had, surviving that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because just several years later, I had a good friend fall and die, Hans Sari, on the direct Gervasuti couloir. Just same type of situation. He was skiing and he was on ice, and he was insecure, and he wasn't able to he had a whippet, I believe, and he couldn't secure that enough once he started sliding, and he fell to his death. Very sad.
And very much so. Daniel, I know you've got a question, but I just wanted to say, Stephen, one of the things I found really interesting, story you shared there, is that you talked about experiencing the fear and just working through it. And when you see these kind of extreme sports videos, I've never actually thought that those people experience fear. I just assumed that they were a different kind of human and they didn't experience fear, and that's why they were able to do that. But that's not true. You do experience fear. You just have a different relationship with it, I suppose. Is that it?
Yeah, that's a great point, Peter. I've looked back and I've really experienced the fear throughout my life, and I did it anyway. And I don't know what it was. but I think I remember, I tapped into the essence of that. And that was a lot of it was growing up with a really critical mother who kept me fearful and on edge. And that was the perfect way to feel, as a snowboard mountaineer, fearful and on edge. So I transferred that into the mountains and utilized that experience, feeling the fear and feeling on edge and a little uncomfortable, because that was normal for me. So I just transferred it into the mountains and into the physical and into the beauty of the outdoors and nature.
When you were getting ready to do these ascents, I mean, for our listener who's not technical, ice screws, crampons, I mean, this is mountaineering gear, right? And even though they try to make it light, it adds a lot of weight and a lot of bulk. So I mean, you've got a rock climbing harness on, you've got gear. Do you have gear along the sides of your hips so you can easily access them? Your crampons, like you've got a backpack. When you told that story, immediately I'm picturing it and I'm thinking, okay, so you're snowboarding down a mountain with an ice axe. So that's a double-edged, sharp tool. You don't want to fall on that thing. And then you have your rock climbing harness around your waist and through your hips, um, and where's the extra gear? So when you got into the situation where you have to self-arrest, you've got the ice axe you're hanging by. Where's all this gear and how are you able to do that as you've got one arm hanging from the mountain and then you've got to try to get the snowboard off so it doesn't fall, right? Because you've got to unbuckle all that stuff. How did you manage that?
Yeah. Well, I had a harness on to start. I had an ice screw clipped to either side of the harness.
Okay.
And then my crampons were in my backpack. And then I had two ice axes, one in each hand.
Wow. Okay. So how are you able, as you're hanging, to then reach down? I mean, it's clunky enough getting a snowboard on. When you're on a flat part of the top of a mountain, you're hanging at a 55 degree slope, which is quite steep. How did you get your snowboard off? I mean, obviously, like you're bending your knees upward. I mean, was that not a challenge? Because then you're kind of get the whole snowboard on your back, and I mean, how did you pull that off?
Yeah, it was incredibly challenging. And I had sore abs for a week after that. Literally trying to, get my board up enough, hanging and then hanging from the ice screw to be able to unclip them. I just want to clarify, I was in hard boots. So I had hard bindings that had a toe bail. So I was able to flip off the toe
Okay.
bail to get my foot out. And I would do one at a time, flip the back foot out, put on a crampon, secure myself on my foot, get my weight on my foot. And then I could lift my other foot up, secure the board, take it off, put it on my backpack, and then put the other crampon on.
And what I noticed
It's
in the
just
story,
very
you didn't
methodical.
say, yeah, I I noticed in the story you did not say your partner, so you did a solo ascent and then a solo descent. Is that right? Wow.
Yeah,
So I
I
mean,
was I was alone.
literally everything is hinging on your actions and decisions. There's no one
Yeah,
coming to save
absolutely.
you.
No, no, not in that situation. Total self-reliance and
Wow.
total responsibility. And that's what I love about the mountains. The freedom we have. That's, to bring it to modern day, that's what I love about our public lands, our public parks,
Mhm.
is that we can go challenge ourselves. There are no rules that say, oh, you have to, like you wanted to go to Denali. There's no one saying, oh, you can't go. I mean, you get interviewed by the park rangers, but I don't know if they forbid people from going, except they they forbid me from going the first time I wanted to go snowboard on Denali.
They're like, we don't
Um,
want to have to try to rescue you.
yeah, they're like, oh, well, no, you're snowboarding. I got invited by Rick Ridgway to participate in a film that he was making about skiing and snowboarding Denali. He wanted me to be the snowboarder, and I was thrilled. I said, yeah, I would love to. And then when the Park Service got wind that a snowboarder was coming, they threatened to pull their film permit
Wow.
because of fear of the new thing. This was in 19 probably 91.
Mm,
And
that's, yeah.
Rick didn't want to risk having his film permit pulled, so he just said, "Hey, sorry, you can't come." And I ended up keeping the plane ticket, which was already purchased, and I went, on my own. It was actually 93.
Late 80s, early 90s, you still had ski slopes across the United States that wouldn't allow snowboarding. And if they did, you would have to get credentialed. Like, okay, you can ride basic, intermediate, or expert based off of your tests to see your capabilities and competency on the mountain. I think I still have my intermediate arm badge from back on the East Coast. Yeah. That's crazy. So you blended climbing and snow science and leadership into a framework for go or no go calls, which it mimics exactly what you do on the mountain. So when or what did you rely on when sponsors, like you were kind of alluding to one of the situations where, someone invited you on a film shoot. So when did you rely on your framework and your mindset for the instinct when someone was like, we want this done, and your gut or your mind is saying, no, I shouldn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. I look back on my career and throughout all my years being sponsored, and I was very fortunate to be able to dictate the terms of
Mm,
what I did. But not only fortunate, I that was the only way for me to exist. It's too risky, it's too consequential to let someone else input, from their desk, for example, what I'm going to do, up on a mountain.
right.
So as a result of that, I did very little filming because I didn't want to, I didn't like waiting around. I didn't like not being in total control.
Mhm.
So yeah, honestly did very little filming, and that's why I oftentimes just went solo. I'm kind of a control freak, and it served me really well
Well, you're
in my
alive.
life.
You're alive.
I'm
So,
alive, absolutely. But and because even when I was successful, sponsors would not sign up again or sign you for another year. It's like, how does it fit into something that's happening way behind the scenes that has nothing to really do with me? Where are they focusing their budgets this year and things like that? So you can't really get too caught up in what other people think or want. That I don't think serves any of us. And one of the terms that I use a lot in my coaching is start close in. And that's something, that I learned to do to keep myself alive. Start close in with me. What do I need? What is my gut telling me? And make a decision based on that. And everyone really is served from that place.
Yeah. There's so many similarities and comparisons to running a business, being a CEO, C-suite executive, or an entrepreneur, and where you've come from out in the mountains, where calculated risks and the consequences are, I would dare say fatal, right? Fatal for the business, fatal for the revenue, the profits, so forth.
You've built the business, you've made the money, but deep down, you know that's not why you're here. You're here to rise, to embody elite health, to deepen the love you give and receive, to lead with purpose, to leave a legacy that outlives you. Rise Tribe is where affluent entrepreneurs like you align wealth with wisdom, hustle with harmony, power with purpose. This is not another mastermind. It's a movement, an inner circle of elite, high-performing leaders who demand more from life, from love, from themselves. Curated, private, invite only. Live virtual workshops on health, wealth, and expansion. Conversations that awaken your soul. Connections that elevate you. But here's the truth. Not everyone gets in. And for a limited time, membership is complimentary.
Where would you say, at what point when you were snowboarding, mountaineering, doing alpinism, all of those things that you decided, I want to also step into coaching, did you notice the comparison right away? And what kind of
Well,
inspired you
let's
to do
just
that?
clarify one thing. I mean, that I think is really important, Daniel. You mentioned
Okay.
fatal for the business, fatal for the bottom line. That's
Right.
not really. I don't think that's apples to apples when you're talking
Okay.
about life and death.
Yeah,
Because there's no second chance when the human is gone.
good point.
Versus a business. How many times have certain people gone bankrupt or, yeah, you can use losing money, as a huge tax write-off, for example,
Hmm.
and turn it into a positive. But when the human is not around, that they don't have a second chance. And I'm not saying that that's not, there's not gold in that, because who knows where we're going to go. I mean, I believe that our spirits continue to fly out of this body. We're just temporary
Hmm.
beings in this body, and then we'll come back in another body. I definitely believe in reincarnation. Um, so from that lens, it's not a loss. It's like, okay, I get another chance. I get to learn and do it again better next time. I mean, that's why I kept enjoying having kids, because I was a better father with each one. Finally,
Yeah.
I tapped out at 4.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a handful. So, at what point in time were you inspired, for obviously being in the mountains, to translate your lessons and your expertise into coaching entrepreneurs and business owners?
Well, I'd been, as a guide for years. I was a guide for close to 2 decades in the Tetons, working for Exum Mountain Guides in the
Mm,
90s and 2000s. And I would take total strangers and create a team, teach the team what they needed to know, and then guide them up the mountain. And in doing that, I realized, wow, there's so much value from this experience as a mountain guide, moving people through fear and self-imposed limitations to reach a goal that applies outside of the mountains. And I started, by doing speeches to clients, at their business conferences. And then I expanded that as a keynote speaker for over a decade, doing that as well, because those lessons, it's all the same. The parallels are all there. Leadership, teamwork, overcoming adversity, moving through fear. And my coaching work is the same. I got into the coaching and knowing that, okay, I've helped people move through fear and self-imposed limitations to climb mountains, and doing that outside of the mountains is the same type thing. The only difference is I can't, manually pull them up the mountain like I oftentimes did when they needed assistance. It's the mental and emotional in a different way with the coaching, but very similar. It's having a different set of eyes that I bring, as a coach. And it's when you have that trust that it's really valuable for people to be able to utilize my eyes and my experiences so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made.
You mentioned goals there, Stephen. Just going back in time. I like bouncing around time, this illusionary social construct thing. When you first started, well, what did you do first? Did you climb mountains, or did you snowboard? Did you start like combining both right at the very beginning? And when you did you have any goals, or did you just want to just be there?
Yeah, great question. Initially, I graduated high school, worked all summer saving money, decided to take a year off before college, got a one-way plane ticket from Boston, where I finished high school with my family, and went to Jackson Hole, where I got a job baking cookies, which was only a few days a week, few half days, so I could snowboard as much as possible. Rented a board, took a lesson, started snowboarding. Loved it. Was,
I'm just going to dig into that a little bit. It's like, why? I mean, had you snowboarded? What had you seen? What was the kind of impetus? What was the internal drive to do this thing, which by all accounts wasn't really done? That was the start of it, was it?
It was small, there weren't that many people. It was 1987.
Yeah. So what was it that kind of...
The impetus was I had snowboarded once on a golf course, and it wasn't that exciting. That was in Denver a few years earlier. But I skied a little bit in New England, and I liked that. But I really loved skateboarding. And I had surfed and surfed a little bit, skateboarded and boogie boarded a lot, and body surfed. And I was like, all right, snowboarding's the perfect combination of this. And it's this new thing. It was exciting. I was like, I'm going to go for it. I think I'll love it. And I did. It was different too. It was fun to be, kind of on the outside. People were a little scared of it.
Yeah. So you rented a board.
Were you doing your snowboarding? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So you rented a board, took a lesson.
Yeah, you got half price rentals as an employee. So I rented a board and I took a lesson, and the rest is history. I mean, a week later, I'm up on the top of the mountain, and a couple of weeks after that, I'm shredding past my instructor, and I just initially just wanted to snowboard as much as possible. It was so fun, brought me so much joy. It was like, wow, this is what passion is about. It was the first time I really had a passion.
Yeah. I was going to ask that question. Was this the first time you really found something that sort of ignited something in you?
Yeah, I mean, skateboarding earlier had, and this was an extension of that, even more so, even more freedom. And then, after doing that for 2 years, that's when I started to get goals. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, the Grand Teton hasn't been snowboarded. And that's where your eyes drawn whenever you're in Jackson Hole. You look at the Tetons, it's like, whoa, look at that. That's the highest peak there. And so I found a mentor. And this guy, Tom Turiano, was willing to teach me. Also, another mentor was Kevin Pusey. He was a ski patrolman. he was became a friend and literally showed me how to use crampons and an ice axe for the first time. And then I met Tom Turiano, and he wanted to ski the Grand. He wanted to be the youngest person to ski the Grand. And he was happy to help me be the first person to snowboard it. So we set out together to do that, and made history by doing that in 1989, June 9th.
Wow. What was your first snowboard? Do you remember?
Yeah, Sim's Switchblade.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I remember those. That's awesome. Uh, if you're willing to share, what was the hardest moment out there in the mountains that you had? Was it like an avalanche scare? Was it the story you've already told us? I mean,
Yeah, the most challenging situation I was in the mountains was after the avalanche I was in on Mount Owen, surviving that night. And I'll just recap. I mean, I wanted to make the first descent of the northeast snowfields on Mount Owen, and Mount Owen's the second highest and most challenging peak to climb in the Tetons and to ski. And its northeast snowfields had not had a descent of any kind. No ski descent, no snowboard descent. And I was actually talking to Steve and Todd Jones from Teton Gravity Research about having them film it, and they were excited about that. But then, I was like, conditions are good. I'm just going to go. And I went alone, and it's quite involved. So I leave town at midnight. People are stumbling out of the Cowboy Bar, and I'm driving past the town square, having slept a few hours, in my 66 Chevelle Malibu with my bike in the trunk and my snowboard and my backpack and all the gear. And I get out to where they close the gate for the elk migration. This is in April. And then leave my car, pull my bike out, ride my bike with my, snowboard boots on, my backpack, my snowboard on my pack, drop my bike off at the lake, at Jenny Lake, and then pull my little skis off my backpack and ski across the frozen lake, and then put climbing skins on my 130 centimeter skis with Dynafit pin bindings and ski up Cascade Canyon until, it becomes too steep. And then I leave my skis and I start post-holing. And it has a breakable crust, so it was really tough going.
What's post-holing?
Post-holing is when you step into the snow, deep snow. It was knee-deep snow, especially because there was a small crust on top of the snow that was the snow, but it wasn't enough to support my full weight. So I would break through that, and it was really taxing. But I continued on, and this took a lot longer than I had anticipated. I expected this to take, a few hours to get up to the base of the face, and this took, all night. It took 7 hours. Wow. And there I am at the base of the face when the sun rises, and I'm like, well, I better get a move on. So I continue up, get through the crux section, the most difficult section, which was some ice climbing, pretty moderate ice climbing. And then after that, I took my crampons off because I was in just really good snow, boot top powder, and I was making good time at this point. And so a couple hours later, I'm higher up, and I hear a noise above me, and I thought, oh no, that can only be one thing. That's an avalanche. And I'm in a couloir, which is a steep snow slope with rock walls on either side. It's about 15 feet wide. So there's nowhere to go. It's 50 degrees steep. There's nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. I can't start running downhill. It's too steep. I would have just tumbled. There's no rock outcroppings to get behind.
What if the real secret to explosive business growth wasn't found in tactics, trends, or tech, but in something far more primal? Something every human being craves. Love. Real, genuine, emotional connection. You've tried the funnels, you've chased the hacks, you've burned money on ads that promised magic but delivered mediocrity. It's not your fault. You've been sold noise when what your marketing needs is music. This book changes everything. Rooted in behavioral science and built on the same relationship-based marketing formulas used by billion-dollar brands, this time-tested framework doesn't just teach you how to market, it transforms the way you see your customers. You'll learn how to turn cold traffic into loyal fans, how to spark love at first scroll, and how to build an unshakable bond that makes your brand unforgettable. Because in a world drowning in gimmicks, authenticity is your unfair advantage. This isn't theory. It's the engine behind some of the fastest growing businesses in the world. And it's helped smart entrepreneurs like you build tribes, not just audiences. Agencies use it, CMOs swear by it, buyers can't put it down. It's won multiple awards, and it's climbing the charts because real marketing that connects always wins. So stop chasing attention, start building love, and watch your business take off. Grab your copy now at Target.com, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble retail stores, or anywhere quality books are sold. Your future customers are waiting for love. It's time to give it to them. Get your copy of Marketing Built by Love today.
So I just drive my ice axes into the snow and hope to hold on. And actually, I'm an optimist. I initially was like, well, I hear something above me. I hope it goes around me. Maybe it will. But as I look up, I see this wall of white shoot over the lip, and it hits me right in my chest and knocks me back. I'm literally on my back snowboarding, thinking this is so wrong to be snowboarding on my back. And then I started tumbling and felt great pressure on my shoulders as my pack blew off. And then a few seconds later, I hear a noise and feel a pain in my knee, which is ligaments tearing. And about 5 seconds later, same thing, noise of ligaments tearing in my other knee and pain. And I think to myself, this has got to stop. This madness, or I'm just going to be dead. My neck will be next. And then it did get quiet. And I was thinking, oh, thank you. Thank you. It's over. It's done. But I realized I was in the air launching over a cliff.
Oh my
And when I
goodness.
landed, that's when I felt the searing pain in my back. And I'm still conscious. And I'm just like, I have to stop, do everything I can. So I dig my hands in, I claw at the snow and kick my feet in the self-arrest position. And I noticed something when I did this out of the corner of my eye. And when I realized what it was, I was horrified. It was my lower leg just dangling off to the side, my right lower leg. And I was like, that is not very helpful. and I continued to slow down and eventually stopped as the tail end of the avalanche washes over me and fills my mouth and throat up with this wet sand-like snow. So I can't breathe all of a sudden. So I'm, choking to death on this plug of snow that filled my mouth and throat. Fortunately, I'm able to extricate it through hard coughing. And in the process of that, I cut my esophagus, so I'm spitting up blood. But I can breathe. I'm like ABCs, airways clear now. Right, I do a body check, my right knee was absolutely fucked. I didn't know that was the correct technical term at the time. But I later realized that was the correct technical term. And my left knee hurt, my back hurt, my neck was so trashed that I had to grab my hair to lift my head up. And I had one ice axe left, my pack, all my belongings were gone. And I used this ice axe to traverse out of the way. I'm like, here I am in the throat of the whole face, the constriction where everything's going to come down. I've got to get out of here because most likely there's going to be more avalanches. The day is just warming up. So I realize I can weight my right leg so long as I keep it in line, straight, bone on bone. So I use my ice axe in my hand in the snow, weight my right leg, and then I kick 2 holes in the snow with my left foot. Side by side, step in the left hole, grab my pant leg, lift my foot, place it in the right hole, move over, repeat that process to traverse out. That's the only way I can think of to get out of the way and preserve my body, you know, in the condition that I was. So I do that for a while, about 10 minutes, I believe. And then I kick two holes, place my left foot in the left hole, weight it. That foothold blows out. All my weight goes onto my right leg, which is leaning in. I fully re-dislocate it, fall down on my knee. My leg's out to the side. I just scream. I look at it and go, that is so wrong. And that's when I say I've traversed far enough. I can't do any more damage to this leg. So I turn around and sit down on the snow. My leg flops down below me. I hold my knee, which is the size of a volleyball. And then I wait. And a few minutes later, I hear an avalanche come down. And I'm looking over my left shoulder going, please just don't hit my knee. Please just don't hit my knee. And fortunately, I was not knocked off. And I was out of the way enough from the main flow to not get knocked off further. And then eventually worked my way down about 600 more feet later that day. And once the angle of the slope eased and I couldn't slide, I turned around and did the backstroke, pushing with my usable leg, which only had a torn ACL. And then I got down and to a rock and I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to spend the night. Because the sun just went down behind the ridge, probably around 4 p.m. And I'm soaking wet. I'm in a long underwear shirt. That's the only top I have. My gloves, my thin gloves are soaking wet. Pants are wet. I immediately start shivering and my teeth start chattering. And at this point, this is when I got really scared for the first time. And I thought, wow, I'm in a really precarious situation. I could really die right now. And then I was like, oh, I have a great idea. I know what to do. I know how to get warm in these situations. Movement, right? Movement. Let me move my body. I tried doing one thing. Oh, my back. Like, no, movement's not going to work like that. So then I was like, I started breathing. Pranayama, breath of fire. And I took my climbing harness off and balled it up and sat on it for some insulation from the snow. And I just held myself, hugged my legs and started breathing. And what this did was got my blood flowing through my body through this forced fast breathing. And that kept me alive all night. And a long night it was. And I had songs go through my head with a common theme. And that theme was sunshine. All I wanted was sunshine. I wanted warmth. Yeah, waiting for the sun by the Doors, Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, Good Day Sunshine, Sunshine Daydream, you name it. Those songs were in my head. And
How did you get rescued?
yeah, eventually I heard a helicopter and it landed above me. And the Rangers came down. I saw their green Park Service pants. And I looked up at them and they look at me and we say the same thing, which is, damn, am I glad to see you? And that's when I relaxed and slipped into hypothermia and just started shaking uncontrollably. And I had told my sister and a friend where I was. And when I didn't show up the next morning, they called the Rangers, which found my car, followed my tracks, knew my plan, saw the avalanche debris, and eventually found me. So they load me on the backboard, eventually get me up to the helicopter, fly me to St. John's Hospital in Jackson, where I am. I had an epiphany. It was there in the emergency room, that in the ICU, that I knew I was going to be okay. And what that was that I was getting hot blankets from the oven to cover me and warm me up from hot nurses. And I was wondering which nurse was going to give me the sponge bath. And I was like, I got my priorities straight. It's not survival right now. Yeah.
I've started
When you're in, yeah, go ahead.
I've started. A friend of mine gave me a book the other day, Stephen, called "The Third Man Factor," and by
I was going to ask that.
It's by a mountaineer, and he talks. Are you familiar with the book or the idea?
No, I thought you were going to talk about the third leg factor, which I was focusing on in the emergency room.
Just that there have been so many times of people in very precarious, life-threatening situations, and he said if it was just like one or two, he probably wouldn't have had sort of taken any notice of it. But it's just so many times that it happens that at these moments there is a sense of almost a physical presence of a person there providing what's needed in terms of guidance or reassurance or confirmation or just what is needed to get through the situation that the person finds them in. Did you have any sense of that when you were there on your own, that you weren't on your own?
No, quite the opposite. I went more internal and was doing this. Yeah. I was starting close in. I was trusting my instinct. And I remember this, and this is some of the gold that I pulled out of it and utilized, when I tell this story to corporate groups. It's like, what's the one next thing? What's the one next thing I get to do to survive? The one next thing to completion. Because in the midst, when I first stopped, if I thought, oh man, I am jacked up, there's potential avalanches, I don't know how I'm going to survive, how I'm going to get through the night, it would have been overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, one next thing. I got to get out of the way of more avalanches. One next thing, I got to get down this slope. One next thing, I have to, warm up my body. One next thing, I got to get through this night. And then I was thinking, what's the one next thing? Okay, if no one comes by noon, I'm going to figure out how to drag myself down further. And that's, I find really helpful. And I use that in my coaching a lot, because it's easy to get overwhelmed. But if we zoom out and think about any goal we have, climbing any mountain, literal or figuratively, you can't skip a step. It's like, what's the one next step that I get to take and do that's going to build momentum? And so often it's just when we get overwhelmed by the enormity of a task, a goal, a situation, it's bringing it in and starting close in and asking ourselves, what's the one next thing I get to do? What's the one inspired action that's going to move the needle a little bit in the direction that I want to go?
And do you have to,
For our listeners,
so sorry, Daniel, do you have to know what the end like completely looks like, or can you just focus?
Absolutely not. No, the certainty. So often we want that certainty, but there's no such thing. Everything is uncertain and unknown. That's what adventure is. You know, going into it, it's like, wow, if there was certainty, there'd be no adventure, right?
I love that.
So you
that's
can
a great
create
quote.
that.
Sorry, Stephen, go on.
Yeah, you can create that, but you can create certainty, but being willing and open and curious enough to allow yourself to pivot, allow things to change, allow the uncertainty to exist. I mean, that is adventure. You know, people unwilling to allow, they're so rigid, it's fear-based, you know, they're clinging to something that isn't even there, certainty.
That's profound. And I think that's a perfect time for our listener to extract some gold from the conversation we're having with you. What's one tangible thing that they could take away and start to do today to improve their life in any aspect? What would be that thing that you might suggest for them?
Yeah, I mean, starting close in, trusting that they know that they have the answer inside them. That's the inner hit that we get, that maybe habitually we don't listen to because of fear, and we let fear lead. And then we loop out on these old patterns of disempowerment by choosing fear instead of the opposite, which is love. And that's one of the things that drew me to this podcast is your name, and that it has love in it, because everything we do is towards love. We feel we're getting love even when we're doing the opposite. We want love. We all want love, and we want that connection that love brings. But we get to do that by starting close in and honoring our truth and staying in balance. I call it selfish positivity, being positively selfish, you know, because here, for this example, this is an example of us as a human. When we are making decisions that serve us well, we're in balance. We're feeling strong. Then we can handle when people come to us, our loved ones, our coworkers, our bosses, and pile more on. We can handle it because we're in balance. Versus, if I don't follow my truth, I don't honor my inner knowing, I get off balance. And then when people come, it's easy to get overwhelmed and topple over.
It can be hard though.
So
it's hard though, isn't it, Stephen? Because like right from a very, very early age, where the society matrix, whatever, you know, is around us, kind of conditions us that parents, you know, whatever's there, that we don't have the answers, that it is outside of us that kind of tells us what to do and how to do it. But I just love the fact that that's where you start, and where you keep coming back to is the fact that we do know, but it's like, how do you let go of sometimes decades of conditioning?
Practice, changing the habits. First and foremost, it's what is my inner dialogue? I think so important is an initial awareness of what's the story I'm telling myself about myself. And is it true? Is the story I'm telling myself, is it true? 99% of the time, the stories we tell ourselves are not true. And a great follow-up question, even if it is true, is it helpful for me living my ideal life, for example, for me accomplishing the goal, for example? Is it true? Is it helpful, the stories I'm telling myself? And then we can realize, well, if the answer is no, well, let me shift. Let me tell myself a different story that's actually true, that's helpful, that feels good. And all of this with the starting close in, checking in with how we feel, I think is how we gain the access to the ability to change. How do I feel? Where do I feel? And especially us as men, we're not celebrated for feeling. We're celebrated and paid well and honored for thinking, for problem solving, not feeling. And this is what I do a lot of in my work, is get us back to feeling and aware of feelings. Because back to what you're saying earlier, Peter, society, parents, conditioning early on, we learn to stuff our feelings to survive. Boys don't cry. Don't be a sissy. Get up. And
I
so
love that
it's
you say
actually
that,
can be a
Stephen.
superpower. Feeling is and can be a superpower when we use it, because we can base our decisions on how we feel and how we want to feel.
I love that you say that, because society does push that the man is to be strong and provide. No one wants to hear the man's issues, their day, what challenges, how are you feeling about things. That's irrelevant. And so society judges a man based off his ability to protect and produce and deal with your own problems. And that's why so many men struggle, is because they have no outlet. And most of the times their friends and their male their male friends, men don't sit around and talk about their feelings and talk about their worries and concerns. That's not what men do. It's just bottle it up and then deal with it.
Yeah, but bottling it up, how does that work? It's going to eventually come out, and then
Yeah.
usually sideways.
Yeah. Heart attacks, stress, hypertension, all the things.
Yelling,
Right.
screaming, blowing up.
Yeah.
Just
We could literally talk for hours.
Yeah, we could.
I want to be cognizant of the time. um, I do want to ask just if I can, just a few quick questions here, and we'll have to have you back on, because I there's so many things that I want to get into, but um, Antarctica, Everest, out of all of the big mountains that, regardless whether you're a climber or not, people know about, what's a common misconception that people don't know about, or what's something that only by listening on this podcast they get a glimpse into the world of? You choose whatever you want to say.
Narrow it down or reframe it. I don't really understand what you're asking.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so like climbing Everest or going to Antarctica, what's an experience like there, or what's something common that most people don't know about? Like it could be anything. Like, for example, what's it like to stand on the top of Everest? What's the air smell like? What's it like passing, bodies on the mountain? Or what's it like being in Antarctica, where there's really it's isolation to the extreme? Can you just quickly put us into like a small glimpse into a window of your world?
Yeah, sure, sure. Vincent Massif in Antarctica was quite an expedition. I went with a group that was primarily from Jackson. So there were 5 of us were from Jackson, so we called ourselves the Jackson Five. And our leader was Doug Stoop from Ice Axe Expeditions, and it was um, it was a really special experience because we had a year's worth of snow, which was 24 inches in a few day period. So we were very uniquely snowboarding powder snow there on Vinson and in Antarctica, um, which was just delightful. Normally they get that over the course of a year, and we got it in one storm. This is in 1999. And boy, I'll tell you, my feet got so cold on that expedition. Going up, you know, it's not that high, but boy, being so far south, it's one of the colder mountains in the world. And it was wild. One of the things I like sharing about, and I'll share with you and your audience, is just having the sun seemingly circling around the horizon. You know, it's the opposite. The earth is spinning around, but to just see the sun over the horizon all day and all night was really fascinating. And as soon as it goes behind the ridge a little bit, the temperature drops pronouncedly, like 40 degrees.
Wow.
Wow.
And after doing the first snowboard descent of the Vincent Massif, we got back to Patriot Hills. We flew back to the base camp there, and we were waiting to fly home, but there was big storms, so we couldn't fly home. So we were thinking, oh man, we might not make it home for Christmas. But it was interesting. And what specifically was the most interesting aspect for me was that I realized I was super nocturnal because food was available and provided 24/7. It was light 24 hours a day. And I, over the course of 2 days, just gravitated to staying up all night.
Wow. That's interesting. Is there anything we should have asked that we didn't as we're wrapping up?
I have a load of questions that I didn't ask, but we haven't got
Me
time.
too.
Why don't you
Me
ask
too.
one, Peter? What's the cream there that you want to ask?
Oh, now you put me on the spot. The challenge is that I asked the question, we don't have time to explore the answer. So we're going to use it as a teaser to make sure you come back on the show, because there's a depth of wisdom and insight in the human condition that you have, Stephen. I mean, we've had some incredible guests on the show. One that kind of springs to mind is Iron Cowboy did 100 triathlons in 100 Ironman triathlons in 100 days, and 50 triathlons in 50 states in 50 days. And
Yes,
it's incredible people. But just some of the stories you've shared, I'd really appreciate the opportunity to delve deeper into your. I feel like we've kind of just we've just been on the crust, if you like, if I can borrow that analogy. And I'd love to break through into the powder snow underneath it on another conversation. Yeah, if you'd be up for that. Go deep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be nice to share a little bit about the coaching work I do.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was gonna ask is, where can our audience find you, and who do you work with? I mean, if you can give us some more information about that, so people can find you, they can start to have conversations with you.
Yeah, sure. My my day-to-day coaching is I work with this guy Chris Struthopoulos, who runs a company called Ascent Empowerment, and it's just a really phenomenal program that he developed. And I am his mindset coach. So I do the one-on-ones for the people, and it's initially a 10-week program called Creating an Empowered Life. And it's for men who are burnt out and overwhelmed, professionals and executives who are burnt out, overwhelmed, and love the outdoors. So we have this thread of loving the outdoors, loving nature, loving adventure and activity that ties us all together, which is really helpful. And it's such a power. I mean, the success rate is over 90% of people
Wow.
complete the program and succeed in it and literally turn their lives around and get out of overwhelm and learn how to start close in and slow down and start allowing. So that's one piece of the work I do. And then I have a couple of private clients that I work with where we do adventures. One client lost 80 pounds. And in the process of that, over 3 years, we did an adventure once a month to a far off place where we would go canyoneering, we would go via ferrata, we would do easy mountaineering. And this was a client who had hired me for years as a keynote speaker for his groups and to do corporate training and team building. And to see him move from armchair mountaineer to actual mountaineer was so thrilling for me as his coach and as his guide. And it's the best situation because I don't guide anymore. I coach, and we hire guides to lead the way and know the local knowledge of places that we're going to that are new for us. And so we create what's called a client sandwich with the guide out front and then the client and then me behind whispering in their ear that they got this and reminding them to utilize the tools that they've created and, I've shared with them, starting close in, breathing, getting in balance, realizing that they are safe. And so much of that is trust. So much of all this work as a human is just slowing down and trusting that we got it and not getting overwhelmed. And when we do, it's like just bring it back through a deep breath, something we are doing unconsciously our entire lives. And it's just bringing a moment of awareness to that act of breathing that can slow us down and get us in our body. And then utilizing that to check in even more. Okay, now that I'm breathing, how do I feel? What do I feel? Where do I feel it? And from this place of feeling, then we can make decisions that serve us, that are different to, break the patterns of the old ways that don't serve the old habits.
I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to
Where
know,
can
and I suspect our listener might want to know as well, is how's your right leg now?
My right leg is wiggly. I got stupid human tricks that I can do with it, but it functions great. And my left knee is the one I've had 12 knee surgeries. I've had 4 ACLs. And the gold in all that suck is that I have more compassion and empathy for people who are suffering and who are dealing with injury. So that's something I'm quite versed in, is working with athletes and people who are struggling as athletes and former athletes, and trying to transition from, wow, this is what I did at this level for so many years. And now trying to adjust into normal society and to make a living. What does that look like? And that
create a
can
new
be really
identity for oneself. Yeah.
Definitely.
Where can people find you online?
On
LinkedIn or?
LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn. If you look at Stephen Koch, I had to look it up. I'm like, what's my LinkedIn thing? It's Koch Speaker, Koch Speaker. So it's linkedin.com/in/Koch Speaker. And then on Instagram, they can reach out, and that's Stephen at Stephen, STEPHEN _Koch, KOCH. Those are the two best ways to reach me.
Stephen, it's been a pleasure. We must have you back on. We could probably go for 3 hours talking to you about your experiences, your insights, and your knowledge and wisdom. But since we're at time, I want to thank you. So thank you, sir, for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute honor.
Are you a hugger, Stephen?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression you were. So let's go a virtual hug. I want to
virtual hugs.
Right on, brother. It's good to be with you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be on Built by Love, and I look forward to the opportunity to do it again if it transpires.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks for your
Happy
time.
to meet you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Built by Love podcast. If you found the conversation inspiring or helpful in any way, then head to builtbylove.com/podcast and make sure you're subscribed to our email list. Please also take a few minutes to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and share this episode with a friend that you think it might help. Each review helps us to spread the message of love to more people. See you next time on the Built by Love podcast.